So without further ado, can we invite Jeff and Harry to start, please?
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Jeff. I run Tribal Worldwide in Singapore and in Asia. Today, I'm joined with my head of technology, Herry. He will, together with me, we will be sharing with you a little project that we did during this circuit breaker. And then now, of course, moving to phase one. So can I have the next slide, please? So how did it all started? It all started on the 7th of April when circuit breaker was kind of a semi-lockdown was kind of introduced. We as an agency, we were kind of expecting this to happen, but just didn't know when. So all the prep work for us for business continuity started just at the beginning of Chinese New Year. So we thought that we would have all our system in place, remote working, all the video conferencing tools, and all the Google tools all ready to work. And we even ran we ran a simulation in our office as a technical lockdown. What happens after that? But when 7th of April actually kicked in, a circuit breaker, the following day, we thought we weren't prepared for the human disconnection. So next slide, please. Then we find ourselves asking a lot of questions, asking basic survival question about what to buy, where to eat, and down to things like where can we get the best lobang, the best deals for masks, or even toilet roll, if some of you remember. Next slide, please. So as a community, we started to interact with one another furiously over WhatsApp, asking questions. And then we basically brought the core team together and said, look, we've got quite a sizable community within our office. What can we do to help them alleviate such fears? So the core team came together and then basically start to flex some ideas. We use the word flex, the term flex quite frequently in the office. Basically, it's our way of saying how we can attend to this in 24 hours, come up with a prototype, come up with some business idea, come up with some creative idea, and how can our community actually tap onto this resource pool? Because we're starting to see a lot of listings, natural congregation of listing outside on the internet. Next slide. Our team, I haven't introduced ourselves. Basically, the core team is made up of what we call the different practices, right? They're represented by business consulting, customer experience guys, the UX guys, the creative and the social team, and of course, the guys that do all the heavy lifting, which Harry will run through with you how we brought this experience to life, the technology guy, and of course our data guys who help us to understand the insights, and so that we can present together at this hyper localized content. So we call ourselves a total experience agency, and we want to bring this what we do day to day into the community. Next slide. So I think within 2.5 days or 3 days, CCB was brought to life. It is a constant evolution. It's not something that just come out like that, because we're working against a very tight timeline. We want to be relevant. We want to be contextual. But what we thought would be best to do is to create a responsive website, a very strong interface design. But above and beyond that, what we hope to do is in that process of searching for your utilitarian stuff, from your food to your exercise video, to even religious content, we hope that these messages, these content will be presented in a way that will kind of be able to put a smile on your face. And that's why we chose CCB. I mean, for those of us who studied Hokkien in our university, we would know that CCB means something else, but it's actually a proper English word if you say it's community circuit breaker. And that came to life, and we gave all the content on the listing a wrapper around it, something that allows people to have fun while they're searching for their content. Next. Of course, when we launched, we didn't just launch with everything that you see right now. We launched in a very lean site, things that we could manage. But as time passed on, we were sensitive to whatever that's happening and the needs of the community. And then we basically expanded our content. Next slide. Just a broad view of how the site is performing. This is not our primary business. We basically set aside resources to basically bring this to life because we saw it as a way to engage the community. This is done really on top and above of our day-to-day work. So since launch, we've got about 870,000 views. And then we have a unique, about 400, close to 500,000 unique visitors. More female than males come to our website. They usually fall within the age group of 25 to 34. Next slide. As we grew organically, we also thought that there are ways where we need to put our content. Because on the website itself, later Herry will explain to you how we built the website. It's not through some CMS website because we just didn't have the time to do that. The speed to market was really important for us, and we're just getting too many requests to list all the deals from the various SME and services. And we thought maybe the fastest way for us to do is to have an offshoot of a Facebook environment. We chose Facebook because primarily it was still easy for us to basically push out the content, engage the fans in various formats. So we have two pages, one main page and one group page. And of late, we're starting to move into editorial content, more in-depth content, just so that people who want to spend more time reading about and researching more about mental wellness, they can spend their time doing that. Next slide. CCB continues to be the talk of the town, if you will. We've find ourselves in various media, and the most surprisingly one was in Mashable and also in SCMP. I highly suggest you to read the Mashable report. It has a lot of graphic content inside the way the reporter writes it. Next slide. Beyond just creating a community, I thought we also have kind of influenced a different vernacular, if you will. The moment we started with CCB, and we're very happy to see that other platforms, familiar platforms that we all love, have started to adopt CCB as well. I mean, CCB is not something that we originated, but I like to think that we are the first to actually coin the term CCB as community circuit breaker. And it's really fun to see that it's being picked up in the cyberspace. Maybe Oxford can, put it together next time in an official term in the dictionary. So how do we keep the people from coming back? Okay, so keeping people from coming back, I think for those of us who are in the content business, it's really easy. This may be something that we already know, but I just run through some of the contents that we have done, right? Next slide. Keeping it fresh, we experiment with various content format, from live content, like you see that little vacuum cleaner that's there. We call it a CB. It's a vacuum cleaner with a pin, a needle, and we just let it roll around in one of our content creators' room. And it's actually quite interesting to see, and because there's a very lively commentary. And why do we do that? We do it to just basically allow people to take some time from what they're doing day to day and just forget about what they're doing, that cabin fever that they may be experiencing, and just teleport them to a space where they can feel some joy in looking at the content. And also we were quite on time as well. Whenever there are interesting news, like for example the McDonald's lockdown, a shutdown, we also push out content to kind of support the current trend. Right. Next slide. Keeping it relevant, we are very highly contextual. We want to be hyper contextual as well. So one of our best performing video is when there is no pao pao cha, no bubble tea. We did the spoof. This spoof is done like a million times. But if you haven't seen it, please go and have a look at it. And of course, when CB it was being extended, we decided to call it something else, like Kid Nation Nimble but Continuous Circuit Breaker. So it's KNNBCCB. Right. Next slide. Um, Besides all the interesting content and besides providing utilitarian services to people, what we really hope to do is now that we have a sizable community, mental wellness is it's very key for all of us. That's why we went ahead to partner with the professors from NUS Mind Science Center. What we did was we together with them they developed two surveys, self-help surveys, and these surveys are basically not full diagnostic tool, but it's generally to give you a sense of awareness, right? On you just go through the question and it basically returns you a result, telling you that hey, this is where your mental wellness spectrum is. Whether you're doing really well, keep up the good work, or you should consider talking to somebody else, or hey, there's a hotline where you can dial in to get professional help. These two surveys that we put out also talk about work resilience as well, mental resilience in the workplace. And through this very simple exercise, just a nicely designed survey, but they're scientifically backed. We managed to get about 2,000 for each of the for the both survey, 1,000 each, and then this will actually help the guys at NUS to plot it into the ongoing surveys that they are doing in COVID time. We also have a heart for the community in the area of helping nonprofits. So we've helped YMCA, Meals on Wheels, and we also did some promotion for Project Belanja. Both had got very, very successful traction and traffic drivers from the platform. Next slide. And then, of course, supporting local. Of course, there's some international brands here because some of our friends work there and they came to us to list their product. And every time when we engage these brands, we don't just let them list what they want to list. We basically tell them, why don't you do a content? Why don't you try this? That the whole purpose behind this is for them to use CCB platform as a trial because they've not actively done this kind of marketing activity. We want them to get their hands into it. And help and let them have a feel, especially the hawkers. There's some SME brands who've not gone really into the digital space to actually push their products and services. So we see this as like an education opportunity for them as well, and also creating unique deals that's also beneficial for our community. Okay. Next slide. Right. So how I mean, in front of all this interesting content, right, at the back end of it where all the magic happens. So I'll let Herry take over the nuts and bolts on how we bring CCB to life.
Hello everyone, I'm Herry. So I'm the principal consultant with the technology team in Tribal Worldwide. So I look after everything technology aspect of our client works. So just now we already heard about from Jeff, right, to talk about what the CCB is about. And for now, I'm going to run you through on how we actually pull everything in 2.5 days, and also the user experience and the technical aspects of what we consider when we bring this to life. So back in the January of this year, right, our team actually have started to look at the media and the social listening as well. The tools that we use, like the sprinkler, to look at the topics like, from Wuhan virus to coronavirus and the COVID-19 eventually when the term is officialized, right? To look at all this topic in this, to look at how we can actually look at the volume that the content we put up, and next time we actually know what kind of content we want to put up as well. And for the general information that we had in the statistica.com, from March this year, we actually look at how the content pattern is look like. So for example, those content pattern that is more social, more online, and also more peer sharing. So this one, we actually look at it and it will help us to plan for our content as well. And when the circuit breaker was eventually announced in April, right, we actually know that what kind of content we want to put up that will definitely hit the sweet spot of the community, right? Next slide, please. So it came about the problem statement that we had and the ideation, right? So the problem that we're trying to solve is actually on the information overloaded. It's everywhere, content scattered all over the places. then like the news, stay-home ideas, makan ideas, and the groceries. Then we also realized that Singapore community actually needs a one-stop resource portal to access various information required to survive this circuit breaker period. Next slide, please. So then with the information that we have observed from the social listening tools like Sprinkler, all these, right, we actually came up with different content type that we want to put out on the website itself. From here, you can see we have different content buckets ranging from news, from food, groceries, all the way to the different channels that you can tap on if you want to do volunteer work with the community. Right, next slide, please. So after we see so many information that we want to put out, right, the amount of information is really a lot. So how do we then design the experience? So we work with our UX team to make sure that we actually comply with the best practices. So we adapt this Mobile's user experience framework that comprises of 6 different pillars. So we just want to ensure that the content that we put out, right, is effective and valuable for our visitors. So in the next couple of slides, I'm going to run you through quickly on these 6 different pillars, right, and how they manifested in our content in the website itself. Next, please. So for usable, it's very straightforward. So it's very simple and easy to use, familiar and easy to understand. So with the use of different tiles format, right, and the descriptive graphics that you can see here, for example, lepak at home, got kang tao, pao to, etc. So all these are making the website very simple and easy to comprehend. Next slide, please. And in terms of usefulness, it does serve the purpose as one-stop portal community for community to find out actually useful information. For example, stay-home ideas, groceries, or deals. Then you can see actually our website made it to the Vulcan Post, the top 12 most useful platform during the circuit breaker period or the COVID-19 period, right? And also some of the community members also commented, give us a very positive feedback that the website is actually very useful. Next, please. And in terms of the desirable, right, the website incorporates the attractive visuals, aesthetic, as well as the minimalist design. As you can see from the graphics that we use here, is very minimalist and easy to understand for the users. Right, next please. Highly accessible. So this website contains simple and highly snackable, light-hearted content with no jargon. So these are daily language that we use day to day, right? For example, belanja someone, shop until shop, auto, kang tao, all these are very easy to understand. Next, please. And our website also, the content has been featured by various prominent online publications, right? As you can see from the different media there. If you want to read more about how the website is being shared over this media, you can visit those websites as well. And this actually created the trust between the community and the website itself to make the content more credible. Next, please. The last point is about findable. So the content generally easy to navigate and discover. So when the user actually try to come to the website to look for something, for example, looking for mask, right? They can just easily look at the tile where get my mask. Just by one click, they can actually look at the details of the get my mask content. Yeah. Next, please. So with all this user experience that we want to bring to our website visitors, right? Before we go into technical design, what were the considerations that we had? So in terms of timeline, of course, we want to launch it as soon as possible within the circuit breaker period so that it can benefit the community. And it should be a one-pager to aggregate different useful links in a clear content presentation format. And in terms of tech, it should be simple, flexible, and scalable as well. Last but not least will be the analytics has to be in place to measure the website performance. We also want to know, what are the best performing content that is most accessed by the user so that we can plan for our day-to-day content update moving forward. Next, please. So of course, the product that we are trying to push out as soon as possible with the minimum viable product, it will be a responsive web like what Jeff mentioned earlier. So the website should cater for different community devices, screen sizes, and it should be just one click to look at the detail through the overlay of content. Next, please. And of course, the main question is how we did that, right, within the 2.5 days. So agile approach helped us a lot. So we focus on this approach in most of our work, of course, for this particular website as well. Try to get the MVP out within the shortest time. So for the requirements, design, development, testing, deployment, all this, right, we actually use the agile approach. And through the different iterations, we continue to improve the products from time to time. Right. Next, please. Yeah, this is the most important one, where how we pull this off, right, within 2.5 days. So this is actually the timeline that what happened during that few days. So 7th of April, we know that circuit breaker was actually announced and kicked in. So on the 8th of April itself, in the morning, we had many internal discussion to see, hey, what we want to do for the community, what we should do, right? So eventually this website was conceptualized, right? And we also agreed that the name of the website should be I am a CCD, circuit breaker, community circuit breaker. Of course, today we already changed it to community care buddy, right? So with this, on the same day itself, the afternoon, right, we put in the different design teams. So the design team is actually, we have the user experience team to look at the user experience, the design team look and feel. Of course, the copywriter as well, to make sure the tone of voice, right, is actually a light-hearted one. Of course, the development team started on the same day itself. We do some prep work. We try to set up the environment, try to set up the code repository, try to set up the code project structure as well. And when the design is finalized, eventually, right, then we start to build in a very simple one, like what Jeff mentioned earlier. It's just a static, not rocket science. It's a static website with HTML, JS, and CSS. But of course, we do have the JSON template as well for the content, for our team, right, to update the content on day-to-day basis. Then, of course, once we are done, on the next day, we had testing, agile testing approach, where everyone just come together to help each other, right, to test with different devices to make sure it works. Then eventually, we deploy to AWS with the automated deployment pipeline from the Bitbucket. Then on the 10th itself, exactly 2.5 days, right, the website CCD was born. Of course, after that, we were still quite busy. On the day-to-day basis, we have the daily review or daily stand-up meeting every morning, right, to look at what are the content that we want to push out for the day. Of course, looking at the other side of the timeline, we have our social team that putting together social plan, to social route plan, set up the Facebook group, Facebook page to continue the community engagement. Right, next slide, please. Just a quick overview of the technical stack, right? So right now, we just having a very simple static website on the S3 bucket. So the technology behind it is just HTML, JS, and CSS, of course, with the JSON. But of course, in the pipeline, we are actually already developing the next phase of it. We are targeting to launch next week, so stay tuned. This one will have a more robust back-end with the content management system that we allow us to create and publish more reactive content, right? Next slide, please. So in terms of analytics, like what we mentioned, we need to measure the website performance, right? So we have basically have implemented the Google Tag Manager as well with the basic analytics in place, event tracking, and other than website, we also have Facebook, the social channel. So we try to pull all these channels, data analytics, right, into the data studio for us to do data analysis as well as the visualization. On the SEO part, of course, the basic hygiene checklist that we always do, the meta specification, page quality, and the external factor, like the backlinks from the various websites that we have. Yep. Okay. That's my last slide actually. Yeah. So pass the time back to the host. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff and Harry. Running a bit behind time now, but before we go on, you guys like to answer the question in the Q&A? Someone is quite interested in joining.
Oh, it's a recruitment question. Well, currently, I think at this point, we are only looking at contract staff. So contract staff at various capacity, either from technology, creative content. I think later on the organizers will drop us a link, so you can all write into the email.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So now we'll go on to our second presentation by Hui Hua and Joy on must go where and should go where. I think it will be Joy presenting first. Let's go ahead.
Hello, StackX. Happy to see you guys here. So our topic today is the insider stories of the GoWare websites. What we did, how we did it, and our learnings. And these stories are so insider that we won't be presenting it anywhere else, only exclusively at StackX. Because it's not exactly the most glamorous stories to share, but I think it truly shows what GovTech is doing and what our team represents. So my name is Joy, I'm a UX designer. I'll be presenting the first part of the presentation on how we got MustGoWare up and running. I have Hui Hua with me here. Hi, Hui Hua. She's our deputy director. She's also our lead delivery manager for the GoWare website. She'll be talking about how we improve MustGoWare after we got it set up, right, with citizens' feedback. Both of us, we are from DCube. It stands for Digital Design and Development. We are production arm in government digital services. Now, for the GoWare websites, these are things that you might already know. We have Must GoWare, Flu GoWare, GoWare, which is a directory of all your go-to government websites, and Support GoWare to help you find eligible grants and funds to type through this diet time, right? And we have several upcoming ones. One of it was actually announced on Monday. It was the voteq.goware. It helps you find out the queue status of your polling station on election day. And no, even we as the production team, we don't know when's election day. So we are as curious as you are, and I will answer. Right, other stories that you might already know about Must GoWare is we have this feature on the middle on how we collaborate on interagency collaboration and the can-do spirit, right? We got it set up within a day. But how about things that you don't know? To first understand our story, right? You need to understand the development process for in GovTech, how we do things. We usually start with a discovery mode where we discover what's the problem, we do research. We go into envisioning to ideate and then do rapid prototyping. We build, test, and learn, and then we go into agile development. And from there, we have an MVP, which we push to live. And even when we go to live, we continuously improve it. And then we power out features from there. This process usually takes 3 to 6 months. But for GoWare websites, this is the process. It just goes straight to live. So essentially what we did here is we came up with a hi-fi prototype, hi-fi mockup. We built it, we did some basic tests, and we push it, and then we see how it goes. We test it in the wild, on the fly. So this is how it is. It's built within 24 hours. So the story begins with the first 24 hours of Must GoWare. So it started at 10 a.m. The mandate is to build a website to inform where to collect masks, and it must be launched tomorrow. 3 of us volunteered, 1 designer and 2 software engineers. We thought that it's simple enough, right? But that's kind of like the famous last word, simple enough. It's nothing but simple. So I quickly came up with the mock. Even in this mock, you can take a look at it. It says mass distribution at appointed venues. Even this title itself, I got it from the media. So whatever I know of Must GoWare, I read it from the newspaper. I put a lot of assumptions in, design assumptions in, that we will get the estimated wait time, current queue number, status of mass supply, and etc. Now, right, that was at 10 a.m. Our developers took this mock and start building it. Then around 12 after lunch, one of the engineer, his name is Ryan Tan, he's supposed to set up the infrastructure for us. So he came over and asked, he needs to register the domain name, right? He asked what should be the domain name. And I think everyone was very busy. I only took 10 seconds to think about it, and I said Must GoWare. And this is how Must GoWare was going. And then he went ahead and registered it. So the interesting thing here is that we didn't get any approval. So yeah, I'm not being fired for it, so luckily. At 6 p.m., and that was a Friday. So 6 p.m. Pangkang already, right? TGIF, right? But no, we can't go. We realized we don't have the postal code data. We don't have the mass collection info. And we start to realize, okay, I'm putting a lot of assumption in, right? That there'll be a queue system. Would the RC staff even update the queue system? Yeah. Are we interfering with their operations? So we actually have this UI where they can update the queue. And by then, right, the mock has changed. It is now called mass collection, not distribution, because collection is where the residents go and collect it, whereas distribution is from the government point of view, right? Yep. And then we waited and waited. By then we have the postal code data, but we don't have the mass collection data. And at 12 a.m., we start to realize that everybody is sharing these posters. The mass collection is tomorrow morning, right? Everybody is sharing these posters where it tells you where to collect the mask. And this is essentially the mass collection info lang. And then we have this fabulous idea. How about we put the poster on our website, right? So we gathered everyone's help to gather posters from their neighborhood and send it to us. And essentially at 12 a.m., we set the concept. That is, our website will show the posters. And this will be launched by 3 a.m. Now we reach the development stage. From 12 a.m. to 3 a.m., our engineers start building it, right? But this is literally the darkest hour of this project, where we start to have a lot of doubts. Our site will be useful, man. After all the posters are already at the void deck, right? At the CC and everything, and everywhere. So why would people use the website to search up where to collect masks? But of course, in retrospect, the whole idea of government digital services is for residents' convenience, it's for citizens' convenience. But at that point of time, we were too fatigued to think about it, but it was very demoralizing. So you can see from the photo, our engineers wasn't in the most joyful mode, right? But we went ahead and do it. It's literally really the darkest hour. After we built it, we need help with pen tests and penetration tests, and our security folks were so helpful. We did it up quickly. At 8 a.m., the website was launched. At 8 a.m., the website went viral. My mom started texting me the URL of Musgrove. And the interesting thing is that up to today, we don't know how it went viral because we didn't really share with anyone. And then as soon as it went viral, there's another rumor that spread on WhatsApp that this is a fake website, it's a phishing website. Of course, this is not true, but we have ourselves to blame because we didn't put logo and our domain name was like musgrove.sg. It's actually a conscious decision to not make it look like it linked to the government because we were too paiseh to claim it as ours. I mean, of everything that GovTech says that we do, we built a website to show posters. So we were a bit paiseh but we learned from it. And the techies, right, can actually do a who is search, right, on who is Ryan Tan. So Ryan Tan was the one who registered. So eventually we dressed up our website and make it look like a legitimate queen. Now by 10 a.m., we realized that the posters that we gathered throughout the night, right, is not the most accurate one. While we are building the website, the RC and CC folks, right, are still changing the operation model, are still changing the time, etc. So they're updating the posters. So we need volunteers to come in and help to update the posters. And 40 to 50 of them, public servants, came back on a Saturday morning. And that was during Chinese New Year festive period. So we are very, very grateful for it. And of course, the story goes on where we face a lot more obstacle and problem, right? So how we survive through it, right, is the team owns the problem. We don't own the solution. None of us own the solution. We own the problem, we take the problem and we solve it. Like for example, stitching the poster more effectively. One engineer just on his own initiative start writing script to do it. Another engineer start implementing a carousel photo gallery so that we don't even have to stitch poster. Our security folks start to scan the environment and scan the traffic to see that there is actually roach domain names being registered. And it also doesn't help that we have visitors from Russia at the same time, right? So we start taking measures to make sure that our app is not so easily embedded in other applications, and we are still monitoring these domains. Now that's the first 24 hours of Musgrove. But we didn't give up. Right? We can't just work with just poster. To make the whole website more fancy, we need structured data. So we try to reverse engineer this. We noticed that CC and RC make a lot of posters. A lot of quant, a lot of pattern, a lot of sizes, come in all forms. We try to extract using OCR. We run it through Google Tesseract. And it works well in terms of extracting the word, but not recognizing the tables, which is interesting because tables is a common pattern, right? But it seems like not many people is working on detecting tables using deep learning. So we kind of give up on this. It will take way more time to work this out. Instead, we built a tool called Poster Generator, which the name suggests is to generate posters. It's for RC and CC staff to use. Once they key in all the details, including the mask collection info, at the last step, they will be able to download the posters in 4 different languages. Convenient, right? They don't even need to translate it. So it incentivizes them to use our tool. For us, right, for the citizens, is you get to see poster that is standardized. And then for our website, right, it's a win-win. We get the most accurate updated data. So Musgrove is really an example of we have a centralized policy where the government say, okay, give out masks. And then we have a decentralized ops where we have 109 CCs and 600 RC. How do and each of them run differently. They have their own operating hours and model. They are made up of volunteers. So you can't really force volunteers to say that you have to maintain the booth for 12 hours. That's not right? It's decentralized operation. It has its beauty. But when you reach downstream to our technology layer, right, this is where we need to consolidate all the data together. And usually there'll be some challenges, but we managed to solve it using the poster generator. And by the way, do you know what is your GRC and SMC? And division and CC and your RC? We can use this link and search it up. This is important because election is coming. Right, okay, I'll pass on to Hui Hua. She will share her secret weapon that is called sentiments. We gather feedback from sentiments, and then as an end result, right, we kind of co-create with citizens.
Right, thank you, Joy. So I guess Gone are the days where we just build websites, right? And then we just close shop. So now I'll share how the Must Go Where team is empowered, leveraging on Sentiment, which is one of our SG tech stack product, to obtain real-time feedback to continuously improve our products. So as you can see, for the last 3 mask collection exercise, we had in fact 10,000 feedback ratings from public, of which 1,300 of the users give details on what they like most or what they like least. So as you notice the picture on the left, these are the live feedback that we had for the Must Go Where website in the first 3 days. And these ratings are not what we are proud of, to be honest. So some of the examples of the feedback we received was that, like what Joy mentioned, the hard copy poster is very hard to read. The collection time is not clear. There's no information on my postal code, and I need multilingual content on the website. So what we have learned is, actually, people don't just rate your website. They rate the entire end-to-end experience, which includes the feedback on the mask, even the volunteers at the CC. And of course, there are some hidden features which tell us which are the good features we should continue to build so that we can improve on the product. Next. So as you can see, for the Must Go Where Phase 2 exercise, our ratings have significantly improved. So mostly are 6 ratings. Next. So some of the fun facts on what we have learned. So like what Joy mentioned earlier, we also developed the Flu Go Where website. Initially, we used Google Maps, but within 1 hour, actually quite fast, we got immediate feedback from the public that the postal code cannot be found. So when we investigate further, like for example, this particular postal code 752101 on one map and Google Map, it actually shows 2 different street names. So if let's say postal code is of importance to you, so you can consider using one map. And of course, don't be afraid to pivot when there's a better option. Next. Right, so of course, postal code unable to be found. These were also frequent feedbacks. So we did 2 tiny experiments during this investigation. So first, for example, when a user enters a postal code that cannot be found, and yet we can receive a one map API return, we will actually log this on the backend to investigate further. Separately, we also leverage on the public feedback by nudging them to enter or drop us an email so that we can investigate further. So after we uncover, we actually realize, right, there are a lot of people who don't exactly remember the postal code, or they enter postal code of buildings, for example, the BTOs or new condos that has not been built. So then again, we have to patch out our content on the website just to make it clear that it's for residential address that has been built. So after 2 rounds of mass exercise, right, we are definitely certain that our postal code to division mapping dataset is quite accurate now. For multi-language, it's also one of the most asked requests, right? So in the first phase, we quickly crowdsourced translation from our in-house team of designers, PM, and engineers. We even tested the Tamil copy with our in-house office auntie just to make sure that the translated instructions and contents is understandable. So today, in fact, we have a small group of part-time translators helping us with all our Go Where websites translation. Oh yes, just this morning, we had a user from the Singapore Association of the Visually Handicapped team to test on our Flu Go Where website. In terms of how accessible the website is for people with disabilities or impairments, honestly, we have quite good takeaways which we can further improve our website. For example, what are the frequent type of screen readers they use or the browsers that they use. So to end off, so what does Go Where means to our team? Definitely meaningful projects with high adrenaline rush. You can see the team has been working very hard. We gain strength from one another, very solid teamwork, especially when there's a call for help immediately within hours. We have a large group of people volunteering their time even over the weekend. And yeah, rapid changes. In fact, for the first week of Must Go Where, we have close to 40 deployments because of the frequent changes. But these are important to continuously improve our products. Yeah, some of the proud moments that we have when we achieve our goal of helping people. So this image is actually from a 2-year-old girl with the help of the parents to thank the team. So something very heartwarming. All right, yeah, that's the end of our presentation. So if there are any questions, you can contact myself or Joy via our email or LinkedIn account. All right, and of course, yes, we are still hiring software engineers. Right, so this picture is actually taken during our Hack Week event. So this event is for our internal teams where all of them stop work for a week of their assigned projects. We gather together and we try out new ideas and hack out small little prototypes and see whether we can bring ideas beyond ideation. Right, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Hui Hua. At this point, there are a couple of questions in the Q&A for the Muscoware Flugoware team. I think Wei Liang has a question.
All right, so how do you manage your stakeholders and management in terms of assumption and implementation, given that you do not have requirements from them? Okay, so for Muscoware, the ops operation was actually very, very short. In fact, the whole exercise took 48 hours, which include the delivery of the mask, the packing of the mask to all the CCRC. So what we did was really based on the best assumption that we have out of the poster, right? And then we quickly try a prototype. Of course, we also liaise with, like, for example, our partnering agencies like People Association or PSD, just to align whatever that we're going to put on the website is aligned to them. So of course, on the call center end, right, we also get feedback from them whether or not it's actually increasing any operation load. So that's essentially how we strategize. Of course, it's a little bit of gamble, yeah, because of a very short time.
Thanks. Maybe one more question, actually from Wei Liang again. They only have a day or two to design.
Okay, I can take that question. So the question is, given that you only have a day or two to design and build GoWare website, right? How does usability and UX comes into play? What is the strategy in terms of UX for urgent development? First of all, if it's 1 or 2 days, you hardly have any time to test it among your team. Grab whoever you can to test it. Also upfront, the requirements are not clear, right? Start writing down in user stories. So as a user, what can you do? And then from there, the stakeholder might give you a bunch of things that they ideally want to do and want to have. And of course, not everything is so important, right? Then you can prioritize. So start writing it down, document it down, prioritize, and even among your team, maybe it could be not just you alone, but it must be the entire team who come together to prioritize this. And this is how we get it started. And of course, like I say, development, in terms of testing, right, it has to be done within your team first, or anyone that's close to you. And once you push out, right, then think about extensive testing.
Joy, do you want to answer the question on the tech stack as well?
I think I can take that. So for tech stack, we are using React.js, Node.js, of course, a large part of AWS and TypeScript. So yeah, it's a very lean kind of setup for something that we need to get it up very fast.
Thank you, Hua. If no further questions, we'll go to the combined Q&A now. Maybe we'll let the CCB website team also jump in a bit on the action here. So Jeff and Harry, I can invite you to look at the Q&A and answer some questions from there, maybe 2 or 3 questions. And then we'll have the Muscoware, Flugoware team come back again on the questions on the end. So over to you guys.
I think, Harry, you can pick the technology questions.
Herry, maybe you can examine a bit more about the turnaround time for changes on the CCB website.
Okay.
So,
So,
SF, yeah.
I mean, in terms of the turnaround time, right, like what I mentioned earlier, so on day-to-day basis, we have the daily stand-up review every morning. So at that point of time, we actually bring up what are the changes that we want to bring to life on our website. And typically the morning we come out with the ideas, right, all the design team will come together to look at, oh, what will be the creative like on the website itself. And in the afternoon, we already started to develop, and we typically live feed late afternoon or in the evening. So typically that is about one day turnaround.
There's also a lot of questions on decision making, right? I guess in both examples that we've seen from tonight's sharing, there's this whole idea of empowerment for the core team. In the life cycle of what we do is, businesses write into us. The business guy would then make a call to, okay, where does this go to? Does this go to the Facebook page, or does this warrant a editorial exposure where then they can pass the brief to the editorial team to write an in-depth content presentation or proceed to do a video. So they work through that, and then after that, the core team actually makes a decision to go live. So there is a whole cycle of chain management inside, and I think empowering the working team to live the content without going through your typical process of different web directors clearing the content. This is something quite refreshing. I think coming out from circuit breaker, this has totally changed the way that we would possibly do things. Of course, the checks and balance are also in place, but it's just that the approval process has tightened, and you appoint a few key people and you entrust them with the power and empower them to make the decision. So that's a one learning point from us.
Thank you, Jeff. Herry, do you want to answer the question on Joshua's question on the skills and roles needed for the team to roll out the website?
Various roles needed to roll out and rationalize the website, right? I think this one, like what I mentioned earlier as well, I think we typically all the teams come together, right? I mean, from the start, when we have the ideas, of course, everyone just come together to look at how we can conceptualize the website ideas. The business team came about, and then we have the design team as well. Design team, what I meant is also user experience team, the art directors, and the copywriter as well. So that's one. And after that, of course, we have our technology team as well. We have the front end team, the back end team. Of course, I also have our infra team to set up the AWS stuff, right? And of course, we have various teams like the project management side as well to help with the testing and coordinating. Everything that we build must be in within the timeline that we have already committed. Yeah. So these are the various skills and the roles that we put together to launch this website.
Cool, thank you. Looking at the Q&A, maybe we can have the Flugoware Maskoware team come back a bit more. I think Talia has asked an interesting question on the feedback collected when you guys first rolled out the websites. So she wanted to know how they were processed and which was prioritized first.
Okay, so maybe I'll take this. So I admit that for the first two phases of the mask exercise, right, our feedback was quite a lot. So it's a manual process, just that even for this time round, for the third mask collection, we have improved it such that we actually integrated all our sentiments feedback, including the emails that we receive from public into Zendesk, and then we actually have a group of teammates to actually help to go through, and then of course rank them. So that is essentially how we prioritize, especially based on the number of feedback and whether or not there are legit concerns that we should fix. So yeah, that's essentially how we do that.
Thanks. I think Wei Liang has a question as well on the GoWare sites not having a common header and footer.
Okay, yeah, so admittedly, this was a mistake on our side because we were all in a rush to come out with the website. And yes, we are not complying to the DSS, which is why on the actual day itself, at about 8:30, we started to patch when the website went viral. So yeah, something that we learned, and yeah, So in fact,
Okay.
now it's compliant.
Thank you. That's good to hear. Okay, I think I have a question for both teams actually. Jaya Lim, did I get it right? Is asked an interesting question. A common theme between the both presentations is the short time frame that you're working with. How is the collaboration done and how are decisions being made? Does having a small team help? So maybe Jeff, Harry, do you want to weigh in first, and then we can have the Flugware Maskware team come in also.
For us, what we learn is having a small core team that's empowered to make the decision work. By no means is the team working on this small, because we have to have our business continuity plan in place, and we basically plucking resources from the entire agency, right? So the developers, like I said, they have their ongoing jobs, business as usual stuff to deliver as well. So we have that full cycle. I think we spotlight a lot on our project managers and also our business guy. They were the one who's actually providing some structure into the madness, because you're just like pulling resources from all over the place. But having a few core guys within the team that can make the decision and say, okay, go approve, yep, like live, and it just makes decision making really quick, because we trust these people to make the decision and make the call.
Thank you. Harry, Hui Hua, Joy, you want to weigh in?
Okay, I can add on. So actually, it's quite interesting. When we first started, it was 3 engineers, and everyone seems to just fall in place to their roles whenever there's help. So the engineers will start to help out with making the decisions, whereas we have, like myself and Joy, we will liaise with the respective agencies just to make sure that the requirements that we're putting in will not affect their ops. Separately, on the ops end, somehow all the volunteers that came in, we did a mini training, and once that started, everyone just took ownership and run it on their own. So honestly, it was, like I said, great teamwork and a small team, and everybody just very clear in terms of the mission, that is just to make sure all our website information is as accurate as much as we could.
I just want to add on, the culture matters as well. The team culture, the organization culture matters a lot in terms of like speaking up. Only when you feel safe, psychological safe, that you will then speak up. You will then take initiative. You will have the autonomy, and that's very important.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Hui Hua. I think on this theme of like having the autonomy and working quickly and having the confidence to move ahead, I think Hao has an interesting question here. How did you make sure that the app or the platforms or the websites are free of any major bugs when you build it in such a short time? You want to maybe enlighten us a bit on the process of how you continually develop the site?
Okay, so I would say it takes 2 things. One is, of course, the teammates that are involved, they are experienced. So, and to add on, when the first website came out, it was not very complex. So it's very slight margin of error. Of course, the second one is, of course, we get feedbacks immediately. As long as, because there are also other types of browsers. For example, some of the learnings that we got is, we actually have quite old devices that is using our website. So that's where we learned that, certain browsers is not working as well. So that is how we fix on the fly as we go.
Harry, do you want to explain to us how the IMSCCD is free of any major bugs? It's built so fast, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So as we illustrated earlier, I mean, when we try to build this, right, it's really just, total development time is really just probably one day plus only. So our website was, when we launched, it was very lean. It's just a single pager, and there wasn't any detail page as well. So when you click, right, it's actually overlay content. So we just need to make sure that when we have that overlay content, right, Hui Hua mentioned as well, I mean, across different devices, right, we just want to make sure that the compatibility, the user can actually view the content properly on that particular small screen, especially those that having, older devices, not so compatible, right, then we have some issue as well. Of course, the moment we notice those problems, then we will try to fix it as soon as possible. Yeah.
I think Actor has an interesting question here as well. So she was asking whether the request for the website is from the government, or is it in-house initiative? I think it's the latter, right?
Sorry, Alex, your question again.
Jeff, do you want to answer Hector's question about whether this IMCC website is from the government point of view, or it's a totally in-house initiative that the company really wanted to do for the community? Yeah.
Well, totally, it is something that's birthed from inside. I mean, I don't think the government would allow IMSCCB to be. I mean, it's so cheeky, right? It's so tongue in cheek. So it's so Singlish. But it's really something that's birthed out of our intention to provide a service for the community. Maybe I'll just take some quick chance to answer some of the questions here. So some of the questions ask about, are there future plans to enhance a community function? Definitely yes. Like in the presentation, I mentioned how we have also helped non-profit to in their areas of fundraising, and also on the site when they write to us, when we feel a certain connection with the kind of work that they're doing, we go beyond that. Some of them are not captured on the website itself. On the site, we actually help them in their work. So other businesses earlier on, before this webinar started, I was just sharing there's some businesses that we know are very new into the market. We also provide that kind of free consultation, if you will. Just all this is just really to bring to life the work that we do day to day and to help the community. There is a question on inclusivity, on whether some Hokkien words can be understood by most people. We just thought that the word CCB is quite generic. People, I guess, the larger population would know it. And of course, we've kind of picked up words that are almost slang to adjacent slang to the Singlish dictionary, and it's just there. And of course, for people who do not connect with them immediately, you can kind of make up in the rest of the English copywriting what we're trying to do, and then hopefully they can go and do some research.
Thank you, Jeff. Hui Shan has a question here about whether the data is being manually updated or uploaded to CCP and GoWare. So actually it's a question for both teams, and what parts of the processes are automated. So maybe Hui Hua and Joy, you want to weigh in first? And then we can have Tribal.
Okay, of course, for the data set that we have, it is manually updated because there is no further changes to it at that time of the exercise. So that was at the first phase. Of course, we did automate things like, for example, the uploading of the posters, or when there are changes to the poster, that's where we start to automate, have the carousel function so that it gets smarter as it goes by. Because for MassGoWare website, the data that we have essentially is just the poster as well as the division that you are in. So it's actually quite lean.
Thank you. Jeff or Harry?
Yep. On the IMCCB website, right, in terms of the data, I think at the moment, because we know that the setup is actually very lean, there isn't any backend database to collect any information at all. So in terms of the data, we do have some surveys, but the one we are tapping on some third-party software or third-party solutions that we embed in our website as well. So the data from that side, we actually try to manually pull into our backend as well. For example, earlier we talked about the analytics, right? We have the data from the GTM, then we have the data as well from the social side. So on the periodical basis, we actually pull this data back into our data studio, right? To do the analysis and the visualization as well. Yeah, so that's on the data part, how we manage the existing content. And of course, the updating of content, like what I mentioned earlier, we have the JSON template, right? So every one in the team, right, that is familiar with JSON, they can actually open up the file, update themselves, and pass it back to us to upload. So that's very straightforward as well.
Thank you, Harry. Okay, for both teams, if you want to look at the Q&A and answer any questions that interest you, you can do so. We will take one or two more questions before we move on to the wrap up of the webinar.
I think Wei Liang has there's a top voted question from Wei Liang. How do you manage your stakeholders and management in terms of your assumption, given that you do not have requirements from them? It's actually a very, very common phenomenon that don't have clear requirements, right? For a proper project, right, the 3 to 6 months where we have proper system, we run inception or we run a workshop where we generate the requirements together. So essentially, we just hold the stakeholder hands up and then walk through the dark with them, or make them walk through the dark with us. So, and then we have the requirements. So that is kind of how we manage the stakeholders for a proper project. For emergency projects like COVID projects, right, the requirement might not be clear, but it's the same. You just have team conviction that we reach there together. That take trust, right? Where trust from our team and trust from the stakeholder that we will work well together, and then we will come up with a good product. There has to be some persistent involved, where you ask the right question, build trust, convince, persuade. And as a UX designer, to me, is to propose the best doable design. And even if it's against what the stakeholder is saying, if it's best for the citizens, then it's my job to kind of propose it. Even though at the end, maybe they might not accept it, but if we don't speak up, then that's kind of not doing our job. Yeah, this is how we manage the stakeholders. It's frustrating. I believe Wei Liang is also frustrated by this phenomenon as well. That's why he's asking. But the team sort of bring us through, our own team.
Thanks, Joy. Anything else from both teams? If not, maybe we'll just wrap up with a question from Melody. For both teams, if you have a chance to redo everything again, what are some of the things that you would do better? Jeff and Harry, you guys want to start off?
Yeah, so I saw this question and I'm on a side chat with my team. I say, shall we do this all over again? I can hear them screaming very loudly. It's not audible on your website, on your chat right now. But no, I think as much as we jokingly say that they're screaming and all that, but given a chance, I think we resonate with what Joy said. You know, the user is the focus on everything that we do. We kind of see ourselves as first respondent, right? If there is something there for us to do, we are always the first one to react to that. And to say that some of the other questions also ask, how are we able to turn around something so quickly? I like to think that we do not build this overnight, but rather the cumulative efforts and experiences that we have over the years, and because of the core team that we have, and so much talent within the agency, that we're able to pitch in. And as we move along, we get volunteers, right? These are all volunteer. It's okay lah. I arrow a few lah to start with. I must arrow the core team first, right? Then they recruit people to come alongside. And these are the people who have given their time and effort to actually make this happen. If we were to do this differently, I would hope that we have a robust kind of like CMS that's ready to run. But because the requirement is so different, we cannot just apply a CMS onto this. Of course, I wish that I had more people to work on this, and so that the factory line can actually churn the thing out. But it is always a challenge to deal with resources. So that's why we make do with the resources that we have. We cut corners. We definitely cut corners, and that's why when we push the product out, there's a fine line between cutting that corner and also speed to market first. And then after that, in phases, then we agree, okay, let's do this, roll this out in the next few hours, just keep rolling. And also looking after making sure that all of us look after one another so that we get adequate rest. If not, it's it's basically human capital that's powering all these initiatives.
Joy?
Right, so maybe I'll take on this. So I did ask the question to the team again. Let's say we were to do this all over again, would you all do it? So of course the answer is yes, for a very simple reason, because we are the government in-house team. If we don't do it, then who? And it's really for the people. So at that juncture for mask go where it was really the crux where the mask distribution is actually the next day, right? So we definitely have to solve this, and with the pure intent that we are serving the public. So of course, no, just now I was just smiling about the chance to redo, just like my earlier question was, okay, this time around we'll register as a .gov.sg and remember put our header and footer. Right, that is definitely the case, and yeah, I would say that is our mission.
Thank you, Hui Hua. So I think if nothing further from both of the teams and all of the speakers, I'd like to thank you guys for answering the questions. That takes us to the end of the Q&A segment. We do have a optional virtual networking coming up, so stay tuned for that. But before that, we do have a couple of announcements we make. First, I'd like to invite all the attendees here to visit GovTech's developer portal through the link. The portal actually has a wide range of products for developers to explore, resources to integrate. There's information on GovTech's products, including those that are open source. We have documentation and community events like the one you're attending now. Just a heads up that we are finalizing the arrangements for our next StackX webinar that will probably take place early next week. So stay tuned for more details on the StackX Meetup site and also GovTech's LinkedIn and Twitter channels. So on the note of community events, I'd like to bring in my colleague Gina here to share a bit more about the tech hunt that GovTech is currently running. If I can invite Gina, please.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, I'm sure all of you have must be very inspired by what we do here in GovTech. This is Gina. I'm from the talent acquisition team in the GovTech. So I would like to take this opportunity to share that we're actively looking out for good and experienced engineers to join us. And yes, as Hui Hua has mentioned earlier, we are looking for software engineers and also other tech roles in cybersecurity, in data science, name it, we have it. So these tech roles are very crucial for us as we step up our efforts in building digital solutions to support the nation's fight against COVID. So in fact, we have recently launched 2 tech hunts for software engineers and cybersecurity engineers. So we have 2 more lined up for in the data science space as well as for business analysts. And here's the QR code. We welcome interested applicants who believe in tech for public good to join us. So for more details, you may go to go.gov.sg/techhunt. All right, thank you very much and have a great evening.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
So finally, to bring us to the end of this, we'd love to hear your feedback on this webinar. Tell us what went right, what went wrong, what you want to see next. So do send us feedback through this link here. We appreciate everything you have to share with us about how we run these events and will continually improve. So that brings us to the end. Thank you everyone for attending.